Nice to see you as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. After the last live, like our DMs were full of requests. People wanted you back to get questions answered. So we really appreciate the time. Now, we'll get straight into it so that we can maximize our time together and get all the questions answered. But everyone, Jacob is from USCB Visa. I will leave all his details. Last time we got a lot of DMs on how to contact him. So please check the captions. The details will be there. You can DM their channel as well. Again, I just want to get through a couple of operational things, and that was our learning from last time when we got a lot of questions. Next, if you have specific questions after the live that you want answered or you are unclear on, rather than sending me a DM, leave that as a comment because this video will be posted on our channel. Leave that as a comment. We can tag you as EMI Visa, and then Jacob can probably answer those questions. So that way, it is going to be a better way for everyone to get their questions answered versus DMing me and then me reaching out to Jacob. Like, that's just not an efficient way to operate. So I just want to make sure that we get through some of those operational things this time. But again, now we are going to get into it straight. Jacob, I know we didn't want to create a lot of swirl since we last spoke and a lot of changes. So if you could give us the latest on the H1B wage update first, and then we are going to get into the H1B 100K confusion that still exists, and we are going to tackle scenarios one after the other. So without further ado, Jacob, please give us the latest on the H1B wage update. And today we are recording this video on September 27, 2025. So I just want to call that out as well.
Yes, thanks so much, Priya. Yeah, I was going to say, I think I have to update quite a bit from what we had discussed this past week. So besides the 100K first-time H1B applicants update, there also was the revisions with regards to the wage determination. So if anybody has social media, which everybody here obviously does, you've probably seen posts from the Department of Labor or from USCIS or from other official government discussing something called Project Firewall, or revisions, as well as revisions to the wage determination. So all of these are tailored to amending and updating the H1B visa program. So the other thing that Priya is talking about is that there have been revisions in how the lottery system is going to be allocated this year. So for anybody who's gone through the H1B selection process previously, you're aware it is a lottery, right? In times past, for the 85,000 H1B visas, 20,000 of those were available only for US master's recipients, and then everybody else was left to fend for the remaining 65,000. Now that has been revised to incentivize employers to pay a higher wage. So now level 4 wages will be given significantly higher allocation or significantly higher allocation of visas than will the level 3, 2, and 1 wages. So the specific, I will share a link subsequent to this call of what those updated percentages are. But long story short, the higher level wage that you have, the more likely you are to be selected. So for those who don't know, every single job that you're sponsored for in H1B has a specific job code. It's a 8-digit code, and it's called an SOC ONET code. Right, so if you're a software engineer, for example, it would be 151252.00. If you Googled that or you looked that up, you could find your code. And there, depending on your geographic area, there's a specific wage level that you need to be paid in order for you to be compliant with H1B. Essentially, in times past, we've always tried to make it so you have to be paid at least level 1. And level 1 wages, let's say it was $21 an hour, would have the same selection chance as somebody who was paid a level 4 wage, which would be expected for somebody who's quite a bit higher experience and higher educational requirements. Now, if you list a level 4 wage, you're going to have a greater chance of being selected. That's essentially what the...
Yeah, so if I'm understanding this correctly, there are still those 85,000 lottery slots, but if I am on level 4, I probably get multiple attempts or like multiple chances for my lottery to get picked versus someone who's on level 1. Is that the right basic understanding of the update? So now I think, Jacob, what would be helpful is, of course, everyone is talking about this H1B wage update, but talk to us about whether it is live. What is the process for it to actually get implemented? Do you expect it to go live by 2026? Like, talk to us about that because I know people keep talking about all these updates, but a lot of it might just take a longer time than we actually understand.
Yeah, I fully expect this to be implemented for for the fiscal year 2027 for this next lottery. There's a 30-day comment period that's open right now where the public can basically message and give their opinion on how this is going to be implemented. Because they had published this in the Federal Register, it means they're planning on moving forward with this. It is proposed right now, so
So it
it's
is
not.
proposed. It is
Yeah.
proposed right now. It is open
Yep.
for comments for the next 30
Correct.
days. What happens after that?
After that, they'll likely incorporate at least some feedback from the public. This happened last time with the updates with H1B for entrepreneurs this past year. There were revisions there, so Department of Homeland Security will respond to and likely implement at least some feedback.
So once that feedback gets implemented, then it goes live. Is that how it works? Or are there more processes for it to go live?
Yeah, after they receive the feedback, then they'll publish the final rule in the Federal Register. It's basically the government newsletter, for lack of a better term. And then once it's in there, that's when it's legit. That's when it's live.
Okay, so you probably, after the next 30 days, probably you expect there to be a little bit more clarity, a few revisions, and then it should go live.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So anything on H1B wage update that we should cover that I haven't spoken about before I get into the scenarios for the 100K?
Just one thing that I'll say is I think that one thing that will either change or something that people should be strategizing is how to appropriately select the correct code. Because now, if you think about it, different jobs, even level 4 wages, are lower than a level 1 wage of another job. So think about it. If you're going to be a software engineering manager at a level 1 wage, you may be paid $100,000, but a level 4 wage of a graphic designer may be paid 70,000, and that person's going to have a better chance than you. So,
Oh, that is such a good call. So it is going to be varied by the profession and the code. So you gotta
yes,
be like ultra focused on what you pick and what wage code you fall under. Okay, got
it's
it.
going to be very important. Yep, that's it.
Okay, amazing. Now we'll get into the H1B 100K rule that we spoke about. There are plenty of questions that I will get through, but before that, I just want to get your POV on a couple of scenarios that are top of mind for everyone. So
Okay.
now with this H1B 100K rule, this was told that this is going to be applicable for the new H1B lottery. Okay, that starts 2026. I think the question now applies is what is new? If my extension is getting applied after September 21st, am I new? If my extension was already pending, am I new? If I'm a first time F1 student, what happens? So let's just cover the scenarios one after the other. And I think that will just provide people some clarity.
Yeah, this is a great question. So I'll give you my own experience with this and others that I've seen reported from other immigration lawyers. It's not applying even to H1B extensions or amendments or change of employers that were submitted after September 21st. So I submitted one on Monday this week, and we did not receive any notice requesting the $100,000. It's not been updated in the fee schedule on the G1055 either. So as of right now, it seems to be they're only interpreting this to new initial H1B applications.
Got it. So new initial H1B application. So today, when you applied for extensions or anything, even post September 21st, that was not required. Now, my next question is around H1B cap exempt. If I'm applying for an H1B cap exempt right now, do you have any clarity on whether I need to show 100K or not? Because it's already like a different category.
Yeah, I haven't had a cap exempt one yet, like an initial cap exempt that I filed this past week yet, but from all the reports that I have seen from other colleagues, it will apply to first time cap exempt applicants, but I have not seen an actual example of this come into effect yet. I'm actually surprised. I thought that we would have litigation already filed this past week. I know that AILA, the American Immigration Lawyers Association, has already compiled a quality team of attorneys working on this. They're still working on finding more plaintiffs for this. So it should be moving forward here pretty quickly. We assume there'll be an injunction issued soon once that's filed.
What does that mean? Does that mean that there is still a chance that this will not go live in 2026 lottery?
There is a chance this to still not go live in 2026.
Ah, interesting. Okay, that is super helpful. Let me get into the specific questions that folks have been asking so that we can cover different scenarios and then we can come back to anything that we missed.
Okay.
Everyone who's asking questions, please like put it on the sticker, otherwise I won't be able to get answered. One question is around the fact that if I am on an F1 visa and then I'm going to be moving to an H1B visa, what happens? Does the 100K apply?
Yeah, so I will say from this past week, one thing that is still certain as of right now is that if you apply for a first time H1B and you plan on getting a stamp abroad, the 100K fee will apply, right? That's only because the president has authority for the entry of foreign nationals. If you were doing a change of status, it would not apply.
Okay, so change of status from F1 to H1B while you are in the US, it's not going to apply. However, if you're
Correct.
going for stamping and do that, that is going to apply, and that is as of today. But
That's
depending
correct.
upon what happens with some of the injunctions, etc., we'll get more clarity on what 2026 is going to look like. Can you like summarize what is the advice for anyone right now who is on an F1 visa, who is going to be changing their status from another visa to H1B visa, has a renewal upcoming or a pending extension?
Yeah, my advice for any F1 student who's planning on applying for H1B next year is plan on applying for a change of status.
Hmm.
It's definitely advantageous to do so. The president, if they wanted to implement this $100,000 fee, they'd have to go through congressional rulemaking. They wouldn't be able to do that here with unilateral action from the president. So if you're an F1 student, plan on doing a change of status. Again, things could actually change pending litigation, but as of right now, that's what I would do. If your employers have concerns, make sure to emphasize to them that this does not apply to a change of status.
Ah, interesting. Do you think it's going to impact the stamping and renewals? Because, this is like the holiday season when a lot of people will be traveling back home and will try to get their stamping. So, do you expect this whole thing to cause an issue if I am going for my stamping for an extension or renewal?
I don't think the new H1B fee will affect extensions right now, will affect stamping for those who need a new stamp. I don't think that will apply. Now, if you are applying for the new cap, right, for this year, for fiscal year 2026, and you have a new H1B petition, I would wait before scheduling any consular appointment there. I had several calls, as you can imagine, this past week from people asking about traveling with everything going on with H1Bs. I think I would personally err on the side of caution with traveling still, just because you still don't know what is going to happen. But obviously, there are family needs, there's medical needs, right? Things come up, you're getting married, whatever it is, travel may be justified in those cases.
Got it. So, just so that we all fully understand, if I have gone through a change of status from F1 to H1 in the current state and I'm going out for a stamping, is that a new H1B or is that okay?
If you've never had H1B before, it would count as new. So this would
Okay.
be one that they would consider to be the 100K. However, again, there's still not even a way to pay this yet, which is crazy. But yeah, it's not
Yeah.
listed yet.
Oh, it's not, there's no way for anyone to pay it. So if you are change of status F1 to H1 while in the US, no problems. For some reason, you have to travel outside. Right now, there is no way to make a payment, but technically it counts as a new visa, new H1B.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay, let me get to the questions. I think we covered this. Is a status change from F1 to H1B? Does employer need to pay 100K?
No, you've got the status change from F1 to H1B. Employer doesn't need to pay 100K. You're good.
Students who are graduating in 2026 May spring, so H1B will land on the 2027 lottery. What is the situation there?
As of today, the $100,000 fee would apply if you plan on obtaining stamping abroad. Your employer would need to factor this into their equation.
Does going for visa stamping can be an issue if H1B is valid but not stamped?
If you've had a previous stamp, no, you shouldn't have any issue based on the H1B fee. But if not, it would be a potential risk.
Please talk about people on F1 visa now who will be applying for H1B next year.
Yeah, this is a great question. I think this is going to require more careful planning than probably you originally planned for, unfortunately. So number one, again, as I previously mentioned, you likely want to plan for a change of status right now. I know a lot of people hate the idea of being landlocked, of not being able to travel internationally. I think unless you have the ability to apply for a different visa or until this immigration situation feels more stable, I personally would try and avoid international travel unless your employer is expressly okay with the potential requirement of having to pay the 100,000. Your employer might be willing to do that. So that's what I think.
Got it. Impact of new 100K fees on H1B transfers after September 21st.
No impact on it.
Can I change job within US with an approved petition without the 100K fee?
Yes.
Does the new proclamation apply for new H1B transfers and future re-entries after transfer or renewal?
No. Initially in the announcement, that's what they made it sound like. That's what Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, said. But then they walked that back basically the next day very quickly. And then when they posted the updated memos from USCIS and CBP, you can tell somebody definitely gave them a call about this.
Is it okay to travel on OPT if I have a remote work permission from employer even with the new rule?
This is a good question. I think it would depend on your I hate the lawyer answer. It would depend on your individual circumstances. So you have to remember traveling on OPT because you have a visa that doesn't allow for immigrant intent. There are potential issues if you're not maintaining residence or you don't have sufficient ties to your home country. You are, as long as you have a valid F1 still, you would be able to travel legally, but I would proceed with caution here.
There is still no clarity regarding change of status from F1 to H1 while inside the US.
Yeah, according to the USCIS memo that was published by Joseph Edlow, the USCIS director, they have said that they are not implementing the $100,000 fee for the change of status. So that's their current policy.
I guess that's a big question because the next one is F1 OPT to H1B change of status. Does the fee apply? Nobody seems to be answering this question.
I think that, yeah, so I think even if USCIS tried to claim that this fee does apply, I don't think they have any regulatory authority to do this. So I had mentioned this previously. So the president's justification for this fee falls under the purview of 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which basically gives the executive emergency power to regulate the entry of foreign nationals. There's no entry when you apply for a change of status at all. So that's governed by USCIS here. It's not governed from the Department of State or from Customs and Border Protection. So for that reason, I think even if they were to say that, I don't think it would stand in court for the way that it has been implemented. But at least my interpretation right now from what I have seen so far, it should not apply in this case.
Any news on physician exemption for H1B fee or the lawsuit?
Nothing on the lawsuit yet, from my knowledge, but for the physicians, I think at least the scuttlebutt, the rumors are that physicians or healthcare workers are going to be exempted from this, at least as a discussion that has been had. From reports, I have not seen anything official on this. Even from the initial announcement, they mentioned that entire industries or specific applicants could be exempted from this on national interest grounds.
Perfect. My H1B is due for renewal in November 2026. Will the 100K fee apply to me if I go for stamping?
No, because if your petition was filed before September 21st, 2025, even under the regulation or even under the declaration, even if we were to assume everything goes into effect, it wouldn't apply still.
What about after 21st?
If it's after the 31st, if it's after the 21st, your renewal wouldn't be due on the 26th. But let's say that you were doing renewal in 2028. It's possible that it would under the current declaration.
No, so my question is, my H1B is due for renewal in November 2026, right? This person is saying, right? So at that point, will the 100K fee apply?
No, only if you filed. So it would apply if the first time you applied for H1B was after September 21st, 2025. So your petition was filed after that. That's it.
Oh, so if your first H1B petition was filed after September 21st, then it's going to apply. If it was before that, then no. Okay, perfect.
Correct.
And it's renewal, so there is no chance that's what he's talking about. Got it.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Any changes in H1B extensions?
Not yet. No. I think that it's possible. I was actually hoping the reason I wanted to do this on Saturdays, I was hoping they would release additional announcements yesterday concerning the wage level updates. because I do those, if they do end up making additional changes to wage levels outside of the lottery, then that would potentially affect extensions, but nothing has been announced yet.
How will it impact H4 apart from H1B?
The H1B fee, or the $100,000 fee, would not directly impact the H4. I think indirectly it obviously would, because your family is going to want to travel with you, and it's obviously going to affect the likelihood that an employer wants to do an H1B, new H1Bs for you if this goes into effect.
Can people who got their H1B change of status petitions approved this year travel for stamping?
Yes, you can still do that.
Does employees who are within the US and start their renewal after September 21st are impacted?
No.
Impact on H1B change of employer petitions?
No, you shouldn't have any impact on the change of employer petitions right now.
Does cultural exchange Indian J1 have 212E rule? Kindly help.
I'm trying to think if I've seen that. So normally I see the 212E rule if you have a Fulbright, if you're a Fulbright scholar, if you have government funded research, whether it's from the American government or the Indian government. I don't think I've seen that from the cultural exchange. I haven't in my experience. Perhaps it is. Just check your DS 2019 if you do have it. If you're concerned or you want to know, you can actually just send or request an advisory opinion from the Department of State, and they'll tell you if you have it or not.
Okay, I think it's the same person, but please tell if there is any change of conversion of J1 cultural exchange to H1B.
No, nothing. I mean, nothing that's unique to the J's right now. I have seen discussion concerning potential reform for the J visas, because J visa employees are not subject to certain taxes, but nothing has come out of this yet.
Will the wage increase applicable be for existing visa renewals?
It's difficult to say. I would say likely yes. When that happens, I would say almost certainly yes. If I was predicting this, this is going to go into effect. This happens every year. Normally when the wage increases go into effect in summer each year, when you file a new labor condition application for your H1B, you have to be paid at least the new prevailing wage. So even if your level 2 wage last year was $50 an hour, this next year it could be $58 an hour, and your employer has to adjust with it. So I would be shocked if it did not apply to existing.
Will the 100K be applicable on change of status from L1B to H1B?
No. Well, change of status, no.
Are H1B transfers and H1B extensions within and outside the US going to be considered as a new petition?
No, at least right now we haven't seen anything like that be implemented. I tried to see if any of my other colleagues had any instances of this happening yet in this past week, and no one had that I was able to find.
I have H1B visa and planning to travel abroad to get my H1B visa stamped. Will there be an issue?
Not from the 100K, but I would just be prepared for additional scrutiny. I think 221G's finding.
My cap-exempt application from F1 was submitted on September 3rd, but haven't received the receipt yet. Will I be applicable for the 100K fee, premium processing?
You have not received the fee yet. I mean, you have not received the receipt. It's about a little more than 3 weeks. It's possible the receipt is still pending. I would check to make sure that the filing fees have been cashed for your application yet. If so, it means it was accepted. And just check to make sure what date those checks were cashed. If it was before the 21st, you should be fine and not have that apply to you.
Everyone, I'm seeing like similar questions you're asking. A lot of it has been answered. So please watch this video when you get a chance. Most of it is going to get answered. As a best practice, I'm going to call this out. Please do not DM me your exact same question and expect me to answer. Please watch this video. That's the reason that I'm doing this live, so that you can have all of these questions answered by an actual expert immigration lawyer. Okay, we'll get into a few other ones. My H1B was picked in the recent lottery in March 2025. I have a first time stamping that is coming up.
My friend, I would be careful in doing this if I were you, without your employer expressly understanding they may be required to pay the $100,000. Do we expect this to be implemented so quickly? No. But I could see a scenario where your visa is refused under 221G, which basically means the consular officers are not denying your case, but they're saying we're going to keep this in administrative processing pending further decision making. So I think it would be risky in your case to go proceed with stamping until this is resolved.
If I switch from L1 to H1, is the 100K fee going to be applicable?
If you applied before September 21st if you applied before September 21st, no, it wouldn't be applicable. If you're doing a change of status, again, there's nothing that suggests that the change of status would have the $100,000 fee right now.
Okay. With I-140 approved, but currently out of the US, need a potential employer to transfer H1B for entering the US. Is this subject to a 100K fee at this time?
No.
When you say change of status, does it mean we cannot travel ever?
Really good question. So on the I-120, so when you file an H-1B application, your employer fills out a form called an I-129. And on that form, there is a box for them to select on page 2 where one of the questions says to notify the office in part A, basically to notify a consulate you plan on getting your visa abroad. And one of the other boxes on there says to change your status from a different non-immigrant status that you have. If you select the change of status box, you're telling USCIS you want to change your status from one non-immigrant status to another. If you try to leave the US with the proof of approval of that application and you try to give that document to the airlines, they would have no idea what you were doing. They wouldn't let you on the plane in all likelihood. So you would need to have a visa in order to do so. To do that, you still have to complete a DS-160 and schedule your appointment. It's still possible to do that. But until you have the visa in your passport, you do not have an entry document. So you're not going to be landlocked forever, but eventually, if you ever want to travel internationally, you will need to get the visa.
Yes, but I think what people are trying to understand, I think this is what I am understanding is we are saying that if you are doing a change of status while you are in the US, you are totally fine because the 100K is not going to be applicable. But if you leave and try to get a stamp, then there is a chance that there might be issues. Is that correct?
That is correct. So you would, if I were you, I would plan on staying here. Just in my scenario, I don't think my employer would be willing to pay $100,000 for me. I would plan on staying here physically in the US until I knew it was safer to travel abroad, and then I would go get the stamp afterwards.
Yeah, I think so. We are talking about like the specifics where, yes, change of status while within the US, you're totally fine. You get out, it's your first time, you try to get a stamp, there might be issues. So the recommendation is like, do not travel if you don't need to. Okay. File my petition for L1B in January. Haven't received any response from USCIS. Premium filing is not an option for me when I try to raise a query around October 21st. I was not able to do that. Is there any other method to do such a thing?
Yeah, sorry to hear that. I have personally had terrible luck with submitting the case inquiries for cases that allow for premium processing. So I've had luck with this for, let's say, advanced parole documents, work permits, or adjustments of status, but for these types of cases where they will have premium, they'll tell you to kick rocks, respectfully. I had one H1B case a couple years ago that took 20 months regular processing for them to process, and I submitted at least 3 inquiries on this, and they didn't do anything about it. So until we upgraded to premium processing.
My first H1B stamping expires 30th September. I have my appointments for visa stamping in Chennai for the first week of November. Any anticipated issues? Should I expect any delays?
Not from the $100,000 fee, but again, I would be prepared for potential 221G processing, where even if you have a straightforward H1B right now, the consulates are implementing a higher level of scrutiny on applications. So I would make sure you have proof of your maintenance of status. I did recently have an applicant who was applying for an extension or a change of employer who was asked about his stay in the US, which is pretty uncommon for the consulates to ask for this. So if you are doing that, I would make sure you have all of your documents in order, have proof that you worked for your qualifying H1B employer and that you complied with the terms of your visa.
Perfect. We'll do last 5 questions, and I think everything else, if you watch the video, you will probably get it answered. I understand that there is no fee for change of status from F1 to H1B, but what about re-entering US after H1B stamping for those picked in 2026 lottery?
Yeah, as of right now, that would apply to you. The $100,000 fee would apply to you.
Okay. Currently on F1, assuming H1B gets picked next year while in the US, so we'll apply change of status while in the US. But after that, we'll need to go to the home country for stamping, and that's when the H1B fee will apply. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think physicians we already answered, but any comment on physicians in training on G1 visa trying to get a job on H1B moving forward?
I think it's quite likely if you have a G visa too, if you're looking at those types of physician jobs post H1B application, I would at least try for the argument for the national interest, assuming this even goes into effect. I would fully expect your employer to ask for the exemption under the national interest.
Perfect. Is there any rule on length of stay outside the US for H1B visa holders?
I should back up on this. Your visa is an entry document that allows you to re-enter the US as long as you are still working for the petition employer, you have a qualified employer for the H1B. So even if you have the 3-year duration, you should in theory be able to enter with that as long as the entry document is valid. Now, in fairness, this year I have heard of instances of employees who were working abroad in India on H1B visas who did not list the Indian work site as a potential area of employment, who were found to not have kept the H1B, like their non-immigrant status, which I think is a crazy interpretation personally, but I have at least heard of this happening on at least one instance this year. So for that reason, I would limit the amount of travel that you plan on doing. I wish I could give you a specific period of time. I would just say I would not plan on working there for months at a time on your H1B unless you...
So there is no such rule, but the recommendation is to not work there for months, correct?
That's correct. There's no such rule. This is just an anecdotal experience that I had a colleague have that I thought was unfortunate.
Okay, so I think there is one question which I think is still like unclear. Those who were picked in the lottery this year, are they not supposed to pay the 100K?
Those who are picked in the lottery this year, assuming things go forward, will be required to pay the H1B fee. Yeah, but with a caveat that their petition was not the exact language of it. Let me pull it up real quick. This is with the caveat that you are a beneficiary that had the application filed after. You only have to pay it if your H1B application was filed after 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time on September 21st.
Okay, so I am a person A whose lottery got picked up this year in 2025. Okay. If my application was filed post September 21st, the 100K rule applies. However, if my application was filed before September 21st, this does not apply. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And I would tell you that almost every single applicant, if not every single applicant, would have filed before then, because the H1B selection notices tell you have a date that needs to file before June, whatever date it was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was definitely before September 21st. So I would say this applies to nearly everyone who was selecting the lottery this year.
Okay. When do you expect this to get enforced? Is this being upheld in court at the moment?
This is not being upheld in court yet. There has been no injunction filed yet by a court. Based on my conversations or based on my contacts, they're still looking for better applicants for the lawsuit to file against stopping this right now. So as soon as so basically to succeed in litigation case, you want to find the ideal petitioner, right? The ideal vehicle to use. Somebody's a sympathetic victim, for lack of a better term. So I think we're still going to see that. It's just hasn't been as fast as we expected.
Will the level of prevailing wage matter if my H1B renewal is due in 6 months? Also, my H1B is being amended from level 1 to level 2 due to a promotion.
Congrats on your promotion. No, you won't have to go through the lottery again. If the wage levels update where the level 2 wage is now higher, it is possible that it affects your application at that point, but not from the lottery chances at all.
does it only depend on the wage salary to be pooled in the different levels, or would job role and duties also play a significant role in determining which level you fall into?
Yeah, job duties do play a role in what level you fall into. It depends on how your employer requests the prevailing wage. So if they request it from the Department of Labor and they list that that the position requires supervisory role, then the Department of Labor is going to assign a higher wage level to your job. Most attorneys, most companies don't ask the Department of Labor though, they just do it themselves through the OES. And if that's the case, they're just going to select you're going to get paid the higher level wage anyway. So I would say outside of that, the job title and duties only matter in selecting the appropriate SOC or ONET code, right? Because if you have managerial duties, that's going to change the code that you use rather than the standard professional code.
Perfect. Last one. I am in India and have H1B. I have asked my current employer to apply for extension. My H1B is with my previous organization. My current organization is asking if they need to do an HNSC for me, and Trump hasn't clarified on that.
Yeah, they have not clarified this yet. I don't expect this to be the case based on the fact that you had a previous H1B. I don't think this will be the case, but we will wait and see should anything change.
Okay, I think then most of the other questions seem very similar to what you have answered already. So everyone, I'd recommend you just watch this video. I'm just going to share it. Jacob, if there are any links you want to share that with me, and I'll put that on the description box. I'll add details for Jacob to also so that you can reach out to him if you need to. Jacob, my only other request to you would be, everyone, like, if you have more questions, please put it in the comment section of this video. We'll try to make sure that we get some of this answered. Please do not DM us, because that's not going to be the most productive way to get your answers. Before we let you go, Jacob, are there any things that have happened around H1B or news or things that we haven't covered that this group should know about?
I think the last thing that I'll say is just to remain vigilant. There's quite a bit of political momentum on both sides of the political aisle to make changes to the H1B process. I just saw online that even the Senate Judiciary Democrats sent a letter to the CEO of Amazon requesting him to respond to questions concerning layoffs and awarding jobs to H1B workers and the unemployment rate for tech workers or STEM workers in the US. So I think we're likely to see additional changes that come. I would just remain vigilant, remain positive, continue to work on improving yourselves, improving your resumes, and just do what's within your control. And we'll continue to update you as those things come out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Jacob. We really appreciate the time. Please send me any links and I'll post that for sure. Thanks everyone for
Appreciate it.
joining. I hope this was helpful, and have a good weekend.
Bye, Priya. Thank you. Good to see you again.
Bye.